Hello, friends, and welcome to Virtual Strangers 41. I'm your host, Wes. With me, as always, my good friend, Roots. Roots, another week goes by. A little bit of scarcity this week, once again, on the software and gaming news front, huh? But you know what? Kind of refreshing, if you ask me. Nice and quiet, right?
Very, very quiet. Actually, it's kind of let us focus a little on hardware, which we don't do as much, and it's pushed us to do some backlog stuff, which is good because we're always bitching. Like, it's one of the biggest things that we bitch about is that we're always falling behind with games. So getting caught up will be nice.
Yeah, it's nice to work on the backlog. Got to spend some time, working on the channel itself and putting some time into improving things, which you viewers are going to see in the coming weeks and months if everything goes to plan. Even got time to put a couple of videos up on my other channel this week.
Wow, that's a new one lately, right?
Yeah,
You've pretty much just neglected that for a little bit because we had the end of the year show and that pretty much took all our time, right?
yeah, it's hard to get around to playing and editing those old games when there's so many new ones coming out every week that I'm trying to catch an hour or two of just so I can talk about them. So yeah, a refreshing week, almost free of software news. We do have a little bit more on the games front than we had last week, but like you said, it's given us a chance to cover something a little different this week and do things a little different. And it's pretty timely because CES 2020 was this past week. And that's what the majority of our show is going to focus upon is some of the news and content that we've seen coming out of CES 2020. But before we get to that, I want to frame this up in the context of some recent comments by the head of development for Oculus, Michael Abrash. Just a week, maybe 2 weeks ago, Facebook's chief VR researcher revealed his belief that the tech giant Facebook will be the company to deliver next generation VR. He said this in an interview with The Information, and he also warned that AR glasses could be as much as 10 years away from wide scale appeal. Um, First of all, he talked a little bit about AR, and the interview pretty much focused on AR, and he said that the AR that everybody claims is their main focus now, those aren't going to hit the market for 5 years, and he doesn't expect them to reach the BlackBerry level of usage for a decade. Um, Roots is on fire as people have been over the last year or two when it comes to AR. Are you surprised to hear this out of Abrash that he doesn't expect this stuff to really be a household thing for a decade?
I do actually. I'm very surprised because if I was to believe what Anthony's been saying for the last couple of years about AR, man, it's ready to pop out any day now. I it's just something that's, I noticed in there they were saying that, it's like you said, it's so far away from even replacing the phone that they don't even expect it to replace other things that, everybody doesn't think that there's a place for VR. They kind of think AR and VR is going to merge together, and I think it's going to be a lot longer than people think before that happens.
Well, I think it is going to be a while, but only because it's going to take AR that long to catch up. I think by the time AR is really good as it needs to be, then we are going to have quite a few compelling mixed reality devices. But Mr. Abrash is pretty clear that he sees the VR as having way more potential than AR. He looks at AR as a replacement for a smartphone, but he looks at VR as a potential replacement for the home PC, which is pretty stark contrast to one another. Um, when it comes to VR, he's a little more optimistic. Uh, he expressed his belief, like I just said, that the Oculus is going to be the only ones that are capable of bringing about true next gen VR. And the quote, as it was exactly as he said it was, no company has invested at anywhere near the level we have. When the next generation of VR shows up, it will be because we did it. I see no other way that it'll happen. I'm actually remarkably impressed with Facebook's strong commitment to and belief in VR. And everybody sees that AR will replace the phone someday. That's a given. But I think that VR can be as important as AR. AR can replace the phone, but VR will replace the personal computer. Roots, how fortunate are we as VR enthusiasts to have people like Mark Zuckerberg with his endless bank account and Michael Abrash with his visionary focus, so steadfast on developing VR into a household item.
Yeah, we're very fortunate. And, you know, when you listen to what he said, because my first instinct was like, wow, it's pretty presumptuous to say, man, just, you know, it's going to be us that does it. But he's right. Like, as far as no one's invested more money and more innovation and brought all this together and done what they've done. And I think it's that vision, you know. No, there were so many companies, and we've said it before, that they not only didn't have quite the vision he had, they were opposite. They were like, fucking VR is never going to take off, and they wanted it never to take off. And if we didn't have these people pushing, not only financially, but with their vision, I don't think we're sitting where we're at. I think we're a lot further back. We're still hearing, where are all the AAA games, man? It's all tech demos. You know, we've got all these AAA games over the last year and a half, 2 years. I can even go back to Edge of Nowhere, man. That fucking game was amazing from Oculus Studios. And they've been pushing for 3+ years now, and almost 4. And I think it really will be because of a good portion of what they're doing. But, you know, there's other players out there, you know. So.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it? You know, Abrash has always been so forward thinking about what his vision of the next generation of VR is. And people put so much stock into what that guy says. He's brilliant. That it's kind of skewed what everyone else's vision of next gen VR is. And what I've learned from watching all of the CES coverage this past week is that there are other people and there are other technologies being developed outside of what Oculus is trying to build that are very much next gen. You know, true, Facebook has spent way more money developing VR platform as a whole than anyone. I mean, it's not even close. But Facebook's approach is holistic. They're trying to develop every aspect of the hardware and all these different technologies. And what you can see at CES are a bunch of smaller startups with groundbreaking technologies, but they're not trying to, you know, build a complete headset with a software platform the way Facebook is. Each one of these companies has their one thing that they're focusing on. And impressive stuff. Did you catch any of this coverage of CES and some of these new technologies that are being unveiled?
Yeah, just a lot of this was as I was pulling for the show, and there's a lot of impressive stuff. And you know, it's funny, it's just as you're saying, there's all these startups. I just figured out how Facebook is going to be in charge of it all. They'll just buy the startup up, and then it'll now be a part of them, and they'll be behind it. Because that's usually what these big companies do. But yeah, it's exciting to see, because like you said, you nailed it. There's companies out there that are doing one specific thing very well. And that's something that Facebook can't do, because they're trying to spread themselves out in every which direction. And so they end up, you know, kind of being mediocre on some of the levels.
Yeah, well, they've already bought up a few of these companies. You know, they bought an eye tracking company. They've bought a neural interface company just this last year to develop, you know, to develop hardware that can sense your neuron impulses. And the idea is that they can determine your intention through reading your neuron impulses. The one that they specifically invested in is kind of this thing you wear on your arm, and it reads your nerves in your arm. And you may think something like that being viable in the use of a product is actually way out. But as we were preparing for this episode, I was watching on YouTube a couple of the guys from CES that put on the event, kind of giving an overview talk of the technologies, some of the standout technologies. And they were talking about and showing footage of this double amputee who didn't have arms. And he was wearing basically Luke Skywalker cyborg hands that worked. And it used the same technology that Oculus is investing in, where it reads his intention, his nerves in his arm and his hands. I mean, it's very rudimentary, but the digits all work. He was shaking hands with people, this guy who doesn't have hands.
How cool is that, right? Like, imagine the first time he gets to hold a beer can and open it and drink, you know. I don't know. The implications for fake hands are out there. So
yeah, it's really awesome the way technology's is popping up. And again, when it comes to VR gaming or just technology in general, you know, we've been doing this show for the better part of a year now. We haven't quite made it a year, and I always get flattered. It seems like every 2 or 3 months, some other person in the space will ask us, hey Wes, are we going to see you guys at GDC? Are we going to see you guys at PAX? Are we going to see you guys at CES? And, you know, I'm always flattered that they think we're on that level. That's one of our ultimate goals. You know, we don't have, you know, any delusion that we're ever going to be able to make a living on what we're doing here. It'd be great if we could, and that we completely recognize that could happen, but we don't expect it. Our goals are a little bit smaller than that. We'd like to get to the point where we can cover these trade shows live for you. And chief among those, honestly, for me, is CES, because it doesn't just revolve around gaming. Before I was a VR enthusiast, I was generally a tech enthusiast, and all the best tech in the world is on display at CES every year. Roots, as far as the trade shows go, can you think of one you'd rather go to than CES?
dude, it's in Vegas, man. Fuck no, man. I want to go to Vegas. It's, you know, for me, I could actually drive in like 7-8 hours, although it's like an hour flight. I would have gotten to meet Sebastian. You know, I think it'd be really cool. You know, there's a lot of reasons, and I can't imagine a better place than in Vegas to go to a trade show. Definitely not San Francisco, man. It's the last place you want to go to any trade show anymore. So.
Anyway, I'd love to go to PAX. I'd really love to go to E3, but I think above all, I'd really love to go to CES, and hopefully one day we will get to that level, but it's only going to happen. There's only one way that'll ever happen, and that is if people continue to subscribe to our channel. We have to continue to grow. And when we say that, that it's important for you to subscribe to help us create better content for you, it's this sort of thing that we're talking about. The more we grow, the more access we get to the industry as a whole. And if you want to see us live on the floor at these sorts of events, subscribe. And if you're already subscribed, tell a friend, spread the word, continue to help us grow. And hopefully a year, 2 years, maybe 3 down the line, we'll be there.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
All right, Ruth, so let's start talking about a little bit of the technology that we've seen on display at CES this year. And I want to go ahead and shout out one more time Sebastian at MRTV. As far as the VR coverage has gone from CES this year, MRTV's coverage is second to none. He's pretty much covered all of the products that we're curious about. He's pretty much went in there and asked all the questions that we want answers to. So kudos to Sebastian. If you haven't checked out his channel, be sure to do so. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say absolutely.
Okay. But out of all the pieces of VR hardware that I've seen this year, completed, ready for consumers, I don't think any of them has really impressed me quite like the Pico Neo 2. This is coming to us from Pico Interactive, the company, Chinese-based company behind a number of enterprise-focused standalone VR headsets. And they, of course, unveiled at CES their newest line of Neo 2 headsets, one of which includes integrated eye tracking from Tobii. The Pico Neo 2 is powered by Qualcomm's Snapdragon 845, so it doesn't have either of these XR chips in it that people keep going on about. But the Pico Neo 2 line of standalone headsets includes both the Neo 2 and the Neo 2i, both which will be shipping later this year, and the Neo 2 priced at $700, Neo 2i priced at $900. Ruuts, what I find so compelling about these, well, there's a lot of things I find compelling about it, but when Abrash gets up there and he starts talking about next-gen headsets, one of the next-gen features everyone looks for in a headset, when they say, okay, that'll be Gen 2, they're talking about two things. They're talking about eye tracking and dynamic foveated rendering. These things are both working, not only working, but working well in the Pico Neo 2i. Sebastian did a demo of it on YouTube this past week, and it's flawless. It works perfectly.
So you mean the tracking works as well? That would be my first thing. Obviously I would, because it's inside out tracking, I would want to make sure it tracks well. And then once it does track well, then I'm thinking, oh, okay, now it's piquing my interest, right? Okay. Now, go ahead. I was just going to ask if the eye tracking and all that stuff, you say it works, but I mean, is it something that would have to be used with the software integration as far as the developers, or because a lot of these things don't know? Okay, I was going to say most of these things that I always, these extra toys like finger tracking and stuff, it's like a cool gimmick, but it's like, what are you going to use it for? But as long as you can actually use it, I'm going to be honest, my biggest thing is there's so many things with the Quest that I don't like, that if I found a headset that was wireless that I could play that could bypass getting a Quest, I would do it, because I don't want to have to deal with the comfort. I don't want to have to deal with the shit that the people that have Quests don't like about it. I want to have an SD card. Does this have an SD card? Well,
let me tell you about this headset, Ruuts. This headset, first of all, with the eye tracking, it works flawlessly, and what it's used for mainly is dynamic foveated rendering. What that means is it only fully renders what you're looking at precisely. The peripheral is only partially rendered, significantly reducing the load on the CPU and GPU that's contained within this thing. It says that it increases frame rates by up to 66% and reduces shading loads by up to 72%. Not only that, you were talking about tracking. This uses two cameras for headset tracking only. The controllers are not visually tracked. They are tracked electromagnetically, a whole different technology, which means that the headset doesn't have to see the controllers. Sebastian put them behind his head, behind his butt. It never lost tracking the whole time during his demo. It does have an SD card slot for expandable memory. The battery is located on the back of the strap, and the headset as a whole is lighter than the Oculus Quest to begin with. The balance is evenly weighed, and the thing is very comfortable, he said. The display is a single 4K LCD display, so it's got better resolution than either of the Oculus headsets, and it can tether wirelessly to the PC to play Steam VR.
Well, yeah, it sounds, I mean, on paper, everything you just said makes me say, Quest what? Like who?
Well, not so
on
fast.
paper.
There are a couple of drawbacks.
Okay.
First of all, to have that wireless PC connection, you got to have a pretty bitchin' router, like a special 5G style router, because it's based on that Qualcomm technology that links with 5G. That's how it accomplishes that. The other big drawback with it is this is only being marketed as a gaming device in China. If you want to buy one of these in Europe or in North America, it's only for enterprise. They're not selling it as a gaming headset here, at least right now. So
fuck the Pico then, man. I'm done. Well,
so
you know,
yeah, it
I mean,
sucks, but it's an amazing device.
well, and you got to, you know, I mean, we could get pissed off about it, but you know, in the end, it's not, you know, it's not about the United States, it's not about Britain, it's not about wherever people are from. It's, you know, we deal with less of it. You know, they deal with a lot more of this kind of shit all the time, where it's like I can't get it only in the States. So yeah, good for them. Good for China. Let them have something for a while, and we'll get it after it's finalized, I guess, huh?
They get it first. China.
Yeah. Nathan will get it, right? Because he have his brother pick it up for him.
Yeah,
just kind of cool, right?
Well, I was wondering because they said that that you can get it here in an enterprise situation. So, like, they said that they'll take orders of 5. So if we can get a group together, maybe we can come down with one of these things, right?
Yeah, me, you, Alex, Justin, and Sion. There you go. There's 5.
There we go. Boom. You got
Yeah.
it. So yeah, let's see. We talked about resolution, field of view a little bit less than the headsets we're used to, 101 degrees versus the 105 to 110 that we're used to. So comparable, but a little bit smaller. Adaptive IPD from the single screen, so it's all digital there. But the low end of it is 55 millimeters, so it goes down pretty small. Maxes out at 71. Tracking again, beautiful. Audio, built-in audio into the strap, USB-C connections, and again, eye tracking. And you know, 700, 900 for what they're offering here is a pretty competitive price point, right?
Yeah, well, especially since it's got the eye tracking and everything. Yeah, definitely. You know, I mean, honestly, I would rather have what you just described. I'd rather pay more for it than the Quest. If I could have a Quest with those stats, you know, those specs, I definitely would do it. So
Comfortable, beautiful. I mean, works well.
I want to expand I just don't understand, man. 64, 128. It's been bothering me since the go. Why fucking limit your people to 32, 64? You know, it's backwards, man. It's 2020. SD slots are huge, and in China they don't give a fuck, man. They'll throw that shit in there, and I'm sure there's reasons why or Oculus is afraid of doing it, you know.
Well,
but
I will say this: we can have, you know, a different Johnny come lately headset pop up every day with better specs than the Oculus Quest. But the way I look at Oculus Quest in the headset market is kind of like the Nintendo Switch. It may not have the specs that every other device has, but what it lacks in specs, it makes up for not only in the firmware that the thing runs on, but the software library that comes with it. You know, Oculus, we already know where their products run. I'm sure that the Pico software can't be anywhere near what the Oculus software is. And even if it was, the games, it's all about the games, right? For you and I, it's all about the games. And even if this thing can tether to Steam VR, it's still not going to, on a standalone basis, even come close to touching what the Oculus Quest can do.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because outside the software and that type of stuff, if somebody can nail it, you know, like I said, there's enough drawbacks for me to where on the Quest that I if something comes out that's comparable or a little bit better, I could see myself getting it instead. just because there's just those limitations that really bother me about the Quest, and that's why I don't have one yet. I've been holding out as long as I can, Wes, and I really need to get something soon. So
Yeah, well, I mean, if they come out with this awesome headset that's comfortable and has all this memory on it and stuff, it's not going to do you much good if it only runs like Angry Birds and you know, a couple other games, and then that's it.
no, it'll run everything. So that's the thing. Everyone always says the same stuff about Windows mixed
It'll run
reality as well.
everything.
Well, it may not run everything. You were just telling me Pimax runs everything. So at some point, maybe it will run everything. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like it'll be interesting to see what it can do and what it can't do, because on paper it sounds amazing. And what you were saying, Sebastian's put it through some of the paces, and we know that those things have worked good. So either way, this isn't viable for me. This isn't stopping me from getting the Quest unless I move to China or I open a business.
Well, my whole point with it is Abrash can talk about how next gen's not coming all he wants to, but this clearly is a next gen standalone headset.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah.
And it's not coming from those guys. It's coming from some startup Chinese company that most people have never heard of.
Yeah, that's what's cool, right?
So let's talk about next gen interface. Let's talk about NextMind. NextMind is unveiling a $400 brain computer interface dev kit. So NextMind is a Paris-based brain computer interface startup. They have debuted a $400 neural interface dev kit at CES this week, something the company intends to release to devs in the first half of 2020. What this machine is a non-invasive EEG, which is a well-established method of measuring the voltage fluctuations of neurons from outside of the skull. It attaches to the back of your head with a simple forehead strap and has 8 prong-like electrodes that pick up brain waves from the visual cortex. The visual cortex. Now, Roots, what this thing does is it's intended to be used in conjunction with that eye tracking we were talking about earlier. And the two of them feed data into a machine learning AI, and the machine somehow does its magic and learns your intent. So you can look at something in the game, think about what you want to happen to that thing, and this thing supposedly would do that, and would communicate that to the game, and basically you would be able to control a lot of stuff in the game with your mind.
Yeah, it sounds like witchcraft to me. I don't know what the hell that is, man. How does that do that? That's crazy, right?
But look at that thing. I could see this thing integrated into a 3rd gen VR headset, just right on the back of the thing, right?
Yeah, and it actually helps cup your thing, and it sticks right in there, and it injects something right into your cortex. This is the first step of the Matrix, but man, that's kind of cool. Actually, I was watching something where they were using this to change the channels and stuff. I would imagine this would be a good thing for Netflix, because who wants to use a remote anymore? I want to, use my mind to change the channel, but they can really do have some implications they could use this for. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, well, we all knew this stuff was coming. We knew it was coming. What blows my mind is if they've got dev kits ready to ship, dude, this thing's ready. Yeah. That's crazy. And it's not only ready, it's cheap. It's $400.
Yeah, that is pretty cheap.
For what that is, it absolutely is cheap, because by the time that this thing is worked into a product, it's going to be half that. It's going to be $200.
What do you think they would use it for, like in the game? Like, it's, I don't know, Boneworks maybe, just for, who knows what they could be using it for, right?
Well, I mean, the sky's the limit. Right off the hand, with me not being one of these software guys, I could think specifically of games like, wands and all these magical games where you're casting spells. It would be good for that, right? You put some hand tracking in there with some eye tracking and some intention gathering machinery on your head, and you can just cast spells by thinking about them and gesturing, right?
Wow.
You
Yeah.
look at your target and aim at it, and poof, no
That'd be
controller needed.
That'd be really cool for like World of Warcraft as a healer. And I just turn to like the group and throw out a raid heal or something, man. I don't know. That would be badass, dude. I want to do it now, but that's probably like a good decade away.
Well, when you think about, we always pine over this this mythical Harry Potter game that we all want to play in VR, the perfect Harry Potter game. Harry Potter, when in the early films, he learned to cast spells by gesturing and verbalizing it. So we could have those kinds of controls in our Harry Potter game. But as he got older and they advanced, they learned how to cast spells without actually speaking the word, but by thinking it and gesturing. So, this type of technology would enable that in a VR game, in a potential Harry Potter VR game.
I bet they could also use it to maybe just gather information as far as like what's you're afraid of, or like we've already said, some of that's already kind of gathering, but it could gather that even more and change the game a little bit to keep you, especially even with the eye tracking as well, I guess, in coordination, and just see if you're kind of getting bored a little bit, or we need to spice up this story a little bit. All of a sudden, midgets start coming out and start doing weird stuff, and all of a sudden Roots is paying attention again. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'd like to see the software or hardware like this in the hands of developers that make games like Vertigo and Layers of Fear. These weird surrealist dreamscapes. If they could somehow get inside your head and
really
and
scary,
learn what's getting to you, we're talking about next level immersion, right?
Yeah, I think Alex would be getting jump scared every 5 seconds. It would learn that it really fucks with him, and he wouldn't know what was going on. I bet you could probably have one of the scariest games ever, just by that, because there's always something. Even spiders, like with Anthony. A spider comes out and he doesn't respond, and it starts to change into a Black Widow. All of a sudden, everything changes. Now that spider's freaky as fuck. So I think that's cool.
Yeah, it puts me back to that Harry Potter again, where they had that one little thing that always turns into the person's worst fear. So you remember what I'm talking about? It turned into a spider for one person, it turned into something else for the other person.
I can't remember what the name of it was now, but yeah, I do remember it. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So anyway, mind reading hardware ready to ship, dev kits available, $400. Tell me that's not next gen, Mr. Abrash.
Yeah.
That's next gen.
Suck it, Abrash.
Well, my point is to all these people here that have got these firm ideas in their head about what next gen is going to be. A lot of it's here, and a lot of the stuff you're not even thinking about that'll blow your mind is here. So maybe we ought not grab on so tightly to Abrash's vision. When it gets here, it'll be phenomenal. I'm sure it'll be unlike anything we've ever seen, but I'd say it's probably going to be referred to as Gen 3, Gen 4 when it finally does get here.
Yeah.
Speaking of next gen, did you see some of these innovations we've had in display technology this year? Specifically, well, let's start with the Panasonic thing. Panasonic unveiled a prototype VR eyeglasses, which operates with two micro displays tethered to a smartphone. It has a small form factor, as you can see right there. It pretty much looks like swim goggles, but a little bit cooler. Weighs in around 150 grams, so about a quarter of the weight of Oculus Quest, and tethered to a smartphone. Pico also had a something similar with their Pico Neo Mini, something very small form factor, just like this, tethered to a smartphone. And the first thing I thought of when I saw these two products, Roots, is the Roots puck that goes in your back pocket that the thing could tether to.
Yeah,
these were both prototypes that were plugged into smartphones, but they very easily could develop a puck for these things, right?
Yeah, or even, better, you don't even need a puck because your phone is the puck. Because, what you're saying is, I say this all the time just between us. I'm like, why does nobody, like, 'cause to me, it makes sense. As soon as I saw the Magic Leap, I thought, man, that's such a good idea. You're taking the hardware, all the shit that you don't want on your head anyway, and you're taking it out and making it lighter. And then tethering this, I mean, can you imagine what you could do, especially with the phones? The phones are getting more powerful than what they can. That's the one benefit of using a phone, if you think about it, because I can upgrade my phone the next generation. I'm not worrying about how it's going to be integrated into my headset. I can just immediately go out, get the new phone, plug it in. Now I've got an upgrade as far as power. And I think it's really cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I know people are looking at that and saying, man, the field of view, the quality must be trash. But these operate off of a different technology. These operate off what's called micro displays, which are very, very tiny displays. And then the lenses, expand the picture out for your eyes. So how good can this micro display technology be? Well, a company called JBD showed off their new micro LED display, which measures, get this, less than 1/3 of an inch diagonally. So, televisions are measured diagonal, corner to corner. So if you get a 32, a 42, whatever, it's a diagonal measurement. This display is 1/3, or actually less. It's 0.31 of an inch. That's how tiny this thing is. Like a fraction of a penny or a dime even. Tiny. So how good could that thing be? What kind of resolution could it give you? Well, it has a resolution of 2560 by 1440, a 10,000 to 1 contrast ratio, a 360 hertz refresh rate, and 3 million nits of brightness. By comparison, the modern smartphone is 600 nits. The modern 4K television is about 2,000 nits. This little tiny speck of a screen, 3 million nits of brightness. Roots, when I heard that, I thought there's no way I'm putting this thing up to my eye. It's going to blind me.
That is bright. Yeah, man. If you put it next to the other ones, that's crazy.
Well, the idea is that they could underpower it. You obviously don't need that much brightness, that they could underpower it, reducing heat, reducing power load. But what happens when that thing malfunctions and flashes in your eye,
Well, it's the same thing, I guess it's just like anything else, like the Tesla suit, or the gloves on your hands. What happens when it malfunctions and it bends them backwards, the fingers, or like Nathan was saying in one of the videos that I saw one time, when they were sending the current through the Tesla suit and you can't move your arms, or it's moving, it does different things. They can control it. That's a little creepy too,
Yeah.
So I think that is something that I don't need to have my eye blinded, but hopefully they get that fixed to where it never happens.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be things in place for that. But impressive, right? These little things can fit in the diameter of a dime, but have that kind of resolution. I mean, that's almost 3K resolution. Contrast. These are HDR, high contrast displays. 360 hertz refresh rate, Roots. That's 3 times the Valve Index.
Wow. Well, I guess, I'm kind of interested to see, maybe Facebook has like 600 hertz or something, since they're going to be the ones for next gen.
Right. What Facebook's hanging their hat on for their true next gen technology is something that really is going to be next gen, and that is their varifocal displays. And what the varifocal displays is, it accurately mimics the way that you perceive depth in the real world. The things that we're using right now is kind of an illusion. The varifocal displays, not so much an illusion, but accurately mimics the way that you look at things in the real world. But they're not the only ones that have a technology that does this. There's a company called C-Real who annually come to CES to show off their technology. Their technology is called light field technology. And again, it seeks to create a genuine representation of how light exists in the real world. Again, this is a different means to the same ends that Oculus are working toward with their varifocal displays. And in previous years at CES, the early iterations of this thing have been too large to fit inside of a headset. Well, the one they brought with them this year, much smaller. You're actually able to conceive them getting this into a headset. So as next gen as the varifocal stuff is going to be when Oculus does eventually come out with that product, will they be the first ones to do it? Who knows? C-Real seems to be making leaps and bounds.
Yeah, it's really cool too, and I don't think people realize the implications of what this would do for a lot of reasons. Like one of the things that I think brings us out of immersion, or we lose immersion, is the fact that our eyes are telling us that you know, we're not supposed to see everything clearly at the same time. There's supposed to be difference in you know, things that are faded or blurry because it's closer. You're focusing over there, just exactly what they're doing in this video. And as soon as they get this technology perfected and implemented in all the headsets, they can start marketing this towards kids, right? Or at least not saying, whoa, this isn't for kids, because that's the biggest thing, is they don't want to damage their development of their eyes. And so once you can take that fear away from people, because I still have it. I see people saying all the time, they're posting all these videos of kids playing VR, and I'm thinking, man, like, I know what it's could be doing to their eyes, and it makes me cringe, you know. It's just weird.
Yeah. This is the main the main fear. You're right. This problem that this type of technology and the varifocal technology is trying to solve is the very problem that that causes them to put an age limit on VR, because when children's eyes are developing, they don't know what exposure to the current technology will do to that development. Maybe it won't do anything. Maybe they'll be fine, but they don't know. Myself, I let my kids use it on a limited basis, a very limited basis. Obviously, my daughter, she's almost 13. She gets to use it a lot more than my son, who's almost 11. But you know, you're absolutely right. When this technology is developed and implemented in the headsets, I wouldn't be surprised at all if the age limit doesn't go down to like 5 or 6 years old on that.
Yeah, which would be interesting too, because they would have to change. They'd have to have headsets for kids or something, man, because even the IPD is jacked up, you know, because their eyes are so different spaced and stuff. I hear that a lot of kids, even though, you know, we put them in there and we think that it's clear, it is not clear, because their eyes are just spaced weird, and it's just not. And so it'll be interesting to see what they do with that as well.
Yeah, that's one of the things I really love about having my Oculus Quest, because I always, when they played it before, we put them in the PlayStation VR, which has a software IPD, which works pretty well, but it's limited in how small it can go. But with the Quest, all I gotta do is slide that thing all the way to the side, and you know, they say it's great. I mean, it's a very noticeable thing for them when I adjust the IPD on it. So,
Oh, good.
yeah. Anyway, next gen, right? Not Oculus, next gen technology.
Yeah. It's actually the same technology that Oculus has, but it's not with all the mirrors and stuff, you know. So maybe it's different technology. Maybe this is better.
Yeah, who knows? Only time's going to tell. But I think it's great that there's another option, another method of achieving this. I mean, if they can get it down the way that they want to, this thing's going to be huge, especially for AR. That's going to be a big application for this technology, if I understand correctly, is in AR glasses.
Yeah.
But you know, tons of different technologies we saw on display at CES. You know, we went over a few different versions of haptic gloves on our program last week, and I watched MRTV just a day or two ago. He was trying out a different pair of haptic gloves that look very similar to Tesla gloves. They look like a hybrid between the Bebop gloves and the Tesla gloves. So they had these little finger cots that went on the tip of your finger, a strap across your palm, and then the force feedback straps on the back. And he demoed them and was amazed. They worked just as advertised. They stopped when, they put him in the grabbing like blocks and balls and things like this that weren't there. But not only did it stop and when he was supposed to be grabbing these objects, but he felt the sensation in his fingers and in his palm. He could tell. He could feel the ball. He could feel the block. They worked, Roots. And it's just amazing to me.
That is amazing. So, man, how many years do you think until they start to integrate that into games, like, or even get rid of controllers, right? I mean, that would be cool.
This is one of my big gripes with the CES, and when it comes to stuff like this, again, this technology is intended to be an enterprise product for businesses and government institutions to use for training. Roots, do you know what CES stands for?
No, not off the. I did, but
it is the Consumer Electronics Show. Consumer Electronics Show. It's not the Enterprise Electronics Show. It's not the for business only electronics show. But it seems like half of the show floor is stuff that's not even intended for consumers, and it's a bit of a pet peeve of mine. Even though Bullshit. I do like seeing all this stuff, it kind of pisses me off that I can't have any of it.
Yeah, well, you could if you want to be a business person, right?
Yeah, well, the good thing about it is most of the time when these people say that it's a consumer product, or an enterprise product, I believe them. It's not like with HTC, which we'll get to in a little while, saying the Vive Pro is for enterprise because they want to slap a $1,400 price tag on it. Anyway, that's another story we'll get to in just a few minutes. There was a company called Tegway that showed up at CES who had thermal haptics, working thermal haptics, dev kit ready to launch in March. And not only with the feedback and the haptics that the gloves and bodysuits already have, but temperature based feedback as well. Next level, right? Next gen.
Yeah, definitely. Would it be weird though, like to have temperature in your gloves only? Like you walk into a hot room. It wasn't
gloves. It wasn't just gloves.
It was the suit too.
The picture that I saw was kind of like sleeves.
Okay.
It went all the way up your arm.
So I want a full suit, but talk about friction. My God, dude, you're going to put on a full suit, zip up, get it all ready. And then if something doesn't work and you got to take it off and like, fuck.
I am, and maybe you are, but I don't think that Joe and Sally Walmart with their Oculus Quest are going to do that. These types of things are always going to live in the realm of the enthusiast. I don't ever see it being a mainstream thing. Maybe the gloves, but when you start talking about masks and full body stuff, the consumer marketplace is moving into downsizing all this stuff, not growing it, all over your body.
Well, I was talking to Anthony last week actually about arcades, VR arcades, and he was mentioning that you'd have to do something extra special really these days to have an arcade. And maybe that's your niche. You got all the shit that like lets you feel like you're actually in there, because no one's gonna have that suit and all that stuff at home. But if you could go spend $20-$30 to use it or whatever, it might be worth it.
Yeah, on the contrary, I think today is the absolute perfect time to get into VR arcades. They're popping up everywhere, and there's a reason for that, because the public is finally curious about VR, and still a lot of people can't afford it to go buy it for themselves and have it at home. So if there ever was a time for VR arcades, I think the time is now to get into that. I think in maybe 5 or 10 years that the time will be over. You know, it's not something you're going to make money in forever. But I think now's a great time to get into VR arcades.
Yeah, especially if you were already established and you know, were ready to go. So.
Yeah, you know, one of the things I saw at CES this year was a VR arcade booth. So it's something that you can kind of move around like an arcade machine, that someone stands in this like circle platform area, and there's a screen to interface to set everything up, and like the headset kind of hangs from the top of the booth. You just put it on, you grab your controllers, you play your game, and move on, just like an arcade machine, except it's VR.
I want that booth at home, just
yeah,
to
for real.
You know, have it hanging nice and neat. You know, because that my thing is the ceiling stuff never works right that I've experienced anyway. It always feels weird. You know.
Yeah, I've never been bothered enough by the tether to hang it from the ceiling, because you're still tethered. It's not like you're not tethered. You're still tied to something. It's just now you're tied to the ceiling instead of the floor, right?
It's just a different type of awkwardness. I just felt, you know what I mean? It just, after all the trouble of getting it all set up, and it just, to me, it was like pointless. It's like I'd rather have the tether.
At least now, like most of these games, I can flip seated mode on, and seated mode works even if you're standing. All seated mode does is it adapts to the height of your headset, to your height in the real world. So like if you sit down, the height in game will adjust so that the floor syncs with you. You know what I'm saying? So the way things are now, I generally play with the seat behind me. I'll stand up for a while. I'll sit down for a while. If I was tied to the ceiling, there'd be no way I could do that.
No, the only thing I could see the ceiling thing would be good, and I was telling you this last week, I went to do Beat Saber 360, and the right off the bat it said, you know, unless it's your, you know, tetherless or you're wireless or you're tethered to the ceiling, they don't recommend it. And then I started thinking about me spinning in circles, and I thought, nah, I'm just not doing it. Really probably shouldn't do it with a tether the way I have it. So
yeah, probably not.
Nah. Sounds like a broken computer to me.
Yeah, well, man, I dread the day. I hope I never have this kind of accident. Now, my computer is freaking heavy. Like, it would take something to move my computer. But if it did fall from where it's at, it would be a disaster. It's tempered glass on all sides. Front, back, sides, top, bottom. The whole thing is glass. So it's heavy, which also means that it's going to fall hard if it ever falls. So yeah, God forbid that ever happens.
It could actually save some of your components though, right? Because if it hits and instead of it, you know, if it gives instead of it jarring it, let's not talk about your computer smashing. Let's just
let's not do that.
Let's keep it safe on your shelf.
Yeah, I can agree with that. All right, so those just a few examples of just individual startups with their each having their own little individual contribution to the larger market. I mean, it's great that Oculus wants to work on all of this stuff in every aspect on its own, but the rest of the industry is moving on as well. And I'm not so sure that I subscribe to the idea that the only one who can bring us next gen stuff is the almighty Facebook. I love what they've done. They're absolutely the driving force behind consumer VR right now. And I feel like that their vision for the future is far and beyond anyone else's, what they're doing. But let's not undersell the contributions of all these other upstarts. They're doing some amazing stuff, whether it be mind reading or micro displays, haptics or heat active bodysuits, light field displays. There's all kinds of stuff, Roots. And, it all adds up to a bright future for VR.
I think the bottom line is what you just said is that next gen VR is going to include all of that shit. It's not just going to be one aspect of it, and it's going to take multiple companies to bring it all together. You know, yeah, Facebook might be pushing it financially, but you know, I the more I think about it, I see that statement as the presumptuous statement as it is. It's like we're the top dogs, and it's not going to happen without us. You know, we might have gotten to the point now where Facebook could just fucking disappear and everything moves forward just as it is. They've pushed things that far forward. Probably not. They still need to have a little bit of work to do, and then they can just disappear and fade off into the dust. So
yeah, I think if Facebook were to disappear right now, it would be disastrous for the 5 to 10 years down the road, you know, stage. I think that it would be a devastating blow to Gen 4 VR. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I think Gen 2 and Gen 3 would be just fine without them, and it will be, you know.
yeah.
For hardware, from a hardware perspective, you know, I think I might cry if we have to do without their games, but
Yeah, there won't be any AAA good ones. Well, there'll be a couple, but
it'd be Sony. It'd be all PSVR, baby.
Sony and Valve. That's it.
How could I undersell Valve? What the hell's wrong with me? All right. So one of the more prominent VR companies at CES this year, a company who would already claim that their technology is beyond the technology that Oculus has on the market, is Pimax. And what Pimax did is what Pimax always does, and they unveiled a line of new products. Roots, they don't ship the last one before they unveil the new ones, do they?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what's going on. I don't know how many products they have now. Like, for real.
Tons. I think they've got like 15 different headsets announced now.
Well, yeah, because they got the 5K Plus and the 5K Super. And I guess the Super has higher refresh rate and so forth, but they just keep adding features. And my biggest thing is the biggest thing that I was saying to you is I just want them to get right what they've already started and then start adding extra shit, you know, get everything ironed out before they start trying to jump to the next best thing. And they're one of those companies that I feel like they're like a kid that's got their appetites, their eyes are too big for what they're how hungry they are. They want to do everything, and they don't realize that my computer can't run everything, and your computer can't run everything, and nobody's computer can run everything. We can barely run what we're running. And I think that's why Oculus did what they did with Half Dome. And one of the reasons is they wanted to keep in pace with what people could actually use versus, you know, the pie in the sky that just isn't feasible, you know? So
yeah, I think it's a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to Pimax, in my opinion. In my opinion, they're from what I can tell, their newest line of products is by far their best line of products, and they're really it's really getting to the point now where you have to start considering, hey, do I want to try out a Pimax? Because the software has gotten way better, the hardware has gotten way better, and you know, even with this Artisan that we're seeing on the screen here, it's beginning to get affordable. The only problem is that people have already paid tons of money to these people for their last generation of headsets, and they haven't even got all of those out yet to these people, and those people paid out the butt because they want the best. They want stuff that you can't get anywhere else. So here's Pimax saying that they have something even better, and you know, they haven't even shipped the headsets to these people yet who've already dropped thousands of dollars trying to get the best. So I kind of really don't like how they're going about what they're doing, but I like the direction that they're going in. I like where they're headed. They're starting to eliminate some of the jank and really put forward some compelling products now.
yeah, but see, for me, it's not even about the products. Although, like you said, it's getting compelling. They've got products that are cheaper, you know, and more people can access them. But I have to put myself in the position of the people that have put money out and are still waiting. And then even if I'm not, say I'm just an average person and I'm looking at this artisan now and I'm thinking, I want to get this. Well, what makes me think I'm any different than the last fucking Joe Schmo dude that's waiting for his headset? I'm going to throw my money out there and now I expect to get it in a timely fashion? Or should I expect to still be waiting a year from now or however long it's been for these people? It's weird. It's like, we're willing to discount all the shit everybody else is going through right now and think I'm different and I'm going to throw my money in now and I'm going to get my stuff. And I just don't think we should expect that. I should expect what everyone else is already going through to be my experience as well. And that scares the fuck out of me. And like I was telling you before, the only way I think I would ever get a Pimax is if I could walk into Best Buy and I could put it under my arm and I could walk out, try it. And if it sucks, I can an hour later have my money in my hand. I just don't, I'm not shipping anything from China. No, fuck that, man. That's not happening to me. That can happen to everybody else, but not me. So.
Yeah, that's really the thing here. You know, as compelling as these products are, you know, I might feel compelled to buy an artisan, but if history serves to teach us anything, I'm going to pay for my artisan, and then by the time I get my artisan, there's already going to be an artisan too, and it's going to be way better than mine for the same price. So why did I even pay for the artisan in the first place, right?
Yeah, I just, consistency. That's the biggest thing Pimax has proven to me. Right now, they're just not consistent, and they're sketchy to me as a company. And I love what they're doing, and the fact that they're thinking outside the box. But I feel like they're using their consumers as guinea pigs, and I'm not a guinea pig, at least not in that respect. So,
Yeah. So, outside of the ethics of their business practices, let's talk a little bit about these products because they are compelling products. We already mentioned the Pimax Artisan, which they unveiled at the heading into the CES. Got some info here on that. It supports 170 degrees field of view, a 1700 by 1440 LCD panel, up to 120 hertz refresh rate at, get this, $450 price tag. Now, Roots, that's and by the way, Sebastian demoed this one, and he was thoroughly impressed. He said that the visual quality was on par with, if not better, than Valve Index. He said it was head and shoulders above the Oculus headsets. He said that the distortion was at such a minimal stature in the peripheral that he doesn't think, he thinks a lot of people won't even notice it, and the ones that do aren't going to be bothered by it. The colors are all good. And that price tag, $450, I mean, that's an affordable price tag, right?
That's really affordable. Now, is that just the headset only? No base stations, no controllers? Okay.
That's the headset only. They do offer two options. One, you can get base stations and controllers to go with it, which you know how much that stuff costs already. They also, for $200, offer to ship it with Nolo VR, and I don't know if you're familiar with Nolo, but Nolo is that kit that people use to turn PSVR into a PC VR headset. So mixed reviews on the Nolo VR. If I was going to buy this, I would get base stations and controllers to go with it.
Yeah, see, but the price is so close to Index. Like, I can get an Index for $500 instead of $450, and know that it's just the things that the Index, that the specs that they have are really good as well. So it's just such a close price point, that I don't know that it would sell me to get that over the other one. Although, I mean, it does, the field of view would be nice, but the refresh rate's just about the same. It's pretty much an Index with a wider field of view is what it is, right?
Yeah, well, if anybody is buying Pimax, that's what they're paying for. They're paying for that field of view.
Right.
That's what we all want. That's what I want out of a next gen headset. And let me be clear: if I could buy this today from Amazon, I probably would. I probably would be buying this right now. I'm not going to give them money up front and wait on my headset. But if I could buy it and have a solid refund policy, if I don't like it, shit, yeah, I probably would be buying this thing right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely compelling for sure.
Yeah, speaking of compelling, they also unveiled their 5K Super headset, which supports a 2560 by 1440 LCD panel, 200 degrees of field of view, up to 180 hertz refresh rate. Roots, no price tag yet on this one.
Wow. Yeah, well, I bet it's not going to be cheap, right? That's for sure.
No way. This one has to be off into the future because I think the low setting on the refresh rate was 160 hertz. I mean,
Yeah.
like that, that would fry my 1080 Ti. There's no way.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's always a trade-off, whether it be the refresh rate or the super sampling, and I almost feel like you can have too much. I know when I built my computer, really was for VR, but I thought it was for 4K gaming, and then you get a 4K TV, which was one of the biggest mistakes for gaming anyway. But and you start to realize you're having to sacrifice. You can't push all that shit. You're having to turn certain settings down to make it run at the right frame rates, and it's the exact same thing in the headset. Your computer can only run so much, and I would rather focus on what it can run really well instead of have a bunch of things that I can't really use yet. And then, like you said, everything's moving so fast. By the time you can use it, there's something 10 times better out there, and you wouldn't use it anyway. So
Yeah, that's really my whole thing. Pimax, their specs really are ahead of their time. And I expect that when I do finally invest in another PCVR headset, it's going to have a lot of this stuff on it. But I don't see this happening for 2 or 3 years, to be honest. I'm happy with what I have. Maybe I get an index if they cut the price in a year or two. But I honestly think that my next purchase is going to be a PlayStation VR 2. That'll be my next headset.
yeah, I don't know what mine's either going to be the Pico 2 or the Quest or something. I don't know. I don't know what I'm getting now, Wes. I'm torn.
Pimax also had working demos for their modular audio strap and their long rumored sword controllers, which are kind of a hybrid between knuckles and touch. They also revealed that their impressive 8KX headset has now entered the production phase. So people are actually going to start getting those soon, which is really cool. That honestly, if I had to buy a headset right now and I chose not to get an index, it would be the Pimax 8KX. That thing is friggin' amazing. It has 4K per eye resolution, 2 different LCD panels, up to 120 hertz refresh rate, 200 degrees field of view, $1,300.
Now, we were talking about this before we started filming too, that something like that, you can actually reduce the 200 degrees, right? It's got different settings.
They have 3 different settings, like a small, medium, large FOV. And I think when you cut it down and it puts the blinders on, it eliminates most of that,
Distortion.
if not all of the edge distortion.
Yeah, see, I would probably be one of those people that would be in the small range, just to avoid that distortion. And it's still bigger than the normal FOV for all the other headsets. So,
right, you start off with the small FOV, get a new graphics card, push it on up to medium.
yeah,
Right.
yep,
Yeah, I'm with you there. So yeah, Pimax definitely moving in the right direction when it comes to their R&D, when it comes to their actual products. Leaps and bounds they're making with this stuff. Not only with the specs, but the build quality, everything. I just hope they get their business practices in order. I hope that at some point the production is going to catch up with the orders, and maybe we'll start seeing this stuff on some store shelves at some point.
yeah.
All right. Speaking of next gen Roots, nobody's bringing the next gen, right? Just Oculus. They're the only ones bringing the next gen, right?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
about XTAL? XTAL Enterprise headset updated with dual 4K panels and dynamic foveated rendering. At CES 2020 this week, VR engineers introduced a new version of its XTAL high-end headset for enterprise priced at $7,890, including business grade support. The original XTAL was announced back in 2018 for $5,800 with the 1440 OLED panel and eye tracking for automatic IPD and leap motion hand tracking. The new XTAL ditches the OLED, moves to dual 4K LCDs like most of the industry, moving over to the LCDs. The eye tracking now supports dynamic foveated rendering like we talked about earlier, which you couldn't run a headset like this without dynamic foveated rendering to reduce the load. And it also works on virtual link Roots. We've been asking, where are these mythical virtual link headsets? Well, here's one. It only costs $8,000.
Yeah, I'm gonna go sell my car and my house, and then I'm gonna go get this XTAL, and I live on the street, but I'll be able to play some VR. That's amazing, though, right? I mean, everything that you just said. Now, is the refresh rate? They didn't say anything about the current refresh rate. Is it still 70, or do you think?
Let's see here. The old one was 70 hertz. I didn't get it in my notes. I'm sure it's in there. I probably just missed it. I imagine that it's probably
90 at least, right?
Well, I don't know, man. With these enterprise headsets, they don't really focus on having gaming refresh rates because they don't really need it. So I imagine it's probably 70 to 80 still, most likely.
Look at the he's holding it. Oops, he's holding it up there, right? He's holding it because it's not strapped to that helmet. That fucking thing's got to be heavy as hell, man. Like, it really needs to be not doing what it's doing. So
well, honestly, if it's an $8,000 headset, I want that thing to be shielded in titanium. I should be able to hit it with a hammer and not damage it.
Yeah, that's true, man. That's super heavy though. But
yeah, probably. We could need a counterweight put on the back, like a dumbbell or something strapped to the back of it. The Franken style.
I would have loved. I wish Sebastian had gotten a chance to check this out, or maybe he did. I don't know. I didn't see the video,
right?
But
I would imagine he probably did.
That's got to be next level, right?
Yeah. Well, we're gonna know, right? We're gonna know what it's like in 2 years' time, because people who are watching right now are going to subscribe. The ones that are already subscribed are going to tell their friends. And 2022, I'm calling it. Roots and Wes CES 2022.
Yep.
Mark it on your calendars today.
Yep.
But no, I just wanted to bring this up. We already knew XTAL was next level stuff. But who's to say this technology isn't next gen? This is obviously far and above anything Oculus has ever brought to town, right?
Right. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see when it gets put into the regular Joe's headsets, right?
Well, I mean, you think that there's no way that could happen anytime soon, but I mean, look, they said that the one that the version 1 did 1440p OLED. I mean, that's what Quest has in it, right? 1440p OLED.
Yeah, so, that's true.
So that's how quickly this shit moves. So next year this is going to be garbage, right?
And it already is garbage. I'm just kidding.
Now we're going to get to the garbage. It's coming. Right. Don't worry. But before we get to that, I want to talk a little bit about NVIDIA. NVIDIA also on the site for CES 2020. But their big contribution this week came in the form of a software and driver update. And it brought many features with it, but specifically in the realm of VR, it brought about a feature that increases the sharpness in VR for RTX cards with a feature that they like to call variable rate super sampling. And what this basically does is it super samples the stuff in the center of the field of view at a way higher rate than the peripheral stuff, so that it kind of works like foveated rendering. It basically does with super sampling what foveated rendering does, right?
Yeah.
It puts the majority of the graphical power into what you're looking at, and what this actually allows it to do is provide, or at least in theory, provide a much sharper looking picture and a much better experience in VR games. Now, the thing about this is it can't be, it's one of these things that the developer doesn't have to implement. It's done from the hardware level, but it only supports about 20 or so VR games right now. And they gave us a list. Notably on this list, I'm not going to read them all off, but I see Boneworks, I see Job Sim, Killing Floor, LA Noire, Lone Echo, Pavlov, Raw Data, Rec Room, Rick and Morty, Robo Recall, the Spider-Man demos, Taylor's Principle, and interestingly, Soulkeeper VR. That was about half. There's a lot more. Battle Wake, for example. Roots, I know you tried this one in Boneworks. What did you think about it?
Oh, it's pretty good. At first it was kind of messed up because I didn't apply it. And once I applied it, it was good. I think where this is going to shine is because right now it's not this way. You have to individually put it for each individual game. When you could put it collectively to just do it on its own. Because right now most people don't, or a lot of people don't know what the hell super sampling is. They don't know how to do it. It just becomes a lot more difficult. I found that, at least for me, because I'm usually cranking the crap out of my super sampling, I'm going to push it a little bit higher up than what it's going to put it up to it in that. But I guess theoretically it pushes more and uses less, but it wasn't not my case, from what I saw, but, it did look really good and it did make it super easy. You instead of having to go into some weird program to run it that you don't really understand, you're just changing the MSAA, and that's really the level that it's set to. There is the level that the super sampling is going. So I think it'll be really cool once you can set it to adaptive for all of them, like all of the games across the board, or at least the ones that are acceptable, and you don't have to go in and change everything. It'll be really good for say somebody that doesn't know anything about super sampling whatsoever, to take advantage of their card and push the games in a way that they normally wouldn't. So
yeah, well, the good thing about this is it takes the work out of super sampling. Super sampling is easy to do. You can set your thing and go in, but if you go in and your frame rate sucks, then you have to go back out and change it, and then go back in and check it again, and go back out and change it. That's what this does adaptively. So you just turn it on and it sees what kind of headroom you have. It applies the super sampling for you. And then if that affects your frame rate, it just dials it back for you. So that's basically what this is in a nutshell. And I agree, when they get this implemented for all games, then basically what it means is that people are going to be able to super sample without super sampling. And that's awesome. That's next level stuff, right?
yeah, it's gonna make people be able to use their video cards to the greatest extent that they can, which is cool.
Yeah, it does make a difference. What this is going to make a difference for is for people who don't super sample. This is going to make a world of difference for those people, because they don't even know what they're missing, right?
No, I didn't even know. And I was just telling you that that was one of my best investments in VR was my 2080, just because every game since I bought it, I'm able to push it that much further, and it makes every game look better and run better. And I don't think people, it's weird though, they put a price tag on everything, but almost like the most important things like that are going to make a big difference of every minute of VR that you play is going to be affected by that video card. It's huge. So
Yeah, it is. It's great, and it really makes it's a good way to get the most out of your money. You know, these graphics cards are expensive things. That they should be able to do this, and really, what the headline, what I'm really taking out of all this is here we once again have NVIDIA pushing the bar in VR. That says a lot right there. You know, if VR was really this fringe thing that nobody cared about, why would they be spending any time on it? Making a virtual link adapter and, you know, different supersetting algorithms and things, super sampling algorithms just for VR. Obviously, VR is something that has a growing importance in the gaming space.
yeah.
All right, so I would be remiss if I ended my CES 2020 talk without bringing up Sony. A lot of people speculated that we were going to get some PlayStation 5 news dropped at CES this year, mostly based on this cryptic promo that Sony put out, stating something about, you know, come to the Sony CES thing to see the next generation of entertainment unveiled, or something to that nature. I'm paraphrasing, of course. So a lot of people just jumped to the conclusion that that means PS5 unveil, and obviously that's not what happened. They did reveal the PS5 logo, which looks exactly like you think it looks. It looks like the PS4 logo, except instead of the 4, there's a 5. But they did give us some stats. Basically, pretty much what we expected here, right? 106 million PS4 units sold today, and as expected, over 5 million PSVR units sold. Now, although this 5 million number does represent the single largest user base in all of VR, the sales are slowing down. You know, normally we move up a million in 6 to 8 months. It took 10 months for them to report this last million. But it's understandable. We have the Oculus Quest that released this past year, and we have diminished software support for PSVR as we come into the new console generation. So it's all expected. I wouldn't panic if I was a PSVR user. I do expect them to bounce back in a big way next year after the new console launches. But all in all, pretty good news, right? Over 5 million headsets out there. And that 106 consoles out there, that's proof positive right there why Sony doesn't really look at Oculus as a competitor, right? Because they're, in their eyes, they're not really selling to Joe and Sally Walmart. They're selling to this 106 million people out there, 103 of which are active users, right?
Yeah, that right there says a lot, man. I don't think there's that much of a percentage for the Rifts or the Oculus of people that own it and are using it. That's, you know, almost a 100% usage. I mean, it's right, really high up there, right?
1.15 billion PS4 games sold to date. Think about that money.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's a lot of money out there. And it makes sense that the sales have slowed down, like you said. You know, there's a lot of people out there, and I see questions all the time on Reddit that people don't really even know. They're still, even though Sony's been very clear in announcing that it'll be cross-platform, or, you know, VR will work on the PS5 and all the games will work backwards. People don't know that. I don't think they, for some reason, they haven't been clear enough, or they just need to browbeat that into people's heads or something. Because, you know, I wouldn't go out and buy it if I thought maybe it wouldn't work, or maybe the games wouldn't work together with it. Even if there was a somewhat of a doubt, I might hesitate, right? So,
well, Sony really hasn't said a lot about the PS5. Basically, all the information we have on it has come from about 5 different magazine interviews. And the cool thing about it is that 4 out of the 5 of them have mentioned VR in some capacity. And if VR wasn't a big part of Sony's future vision for PlayStation, then they wouldn't keep bringing it up. You know what I mean? It's easy to say, well, look, 5% install, 4% install PSVR as compared to PS4. Obviously, they're looking to grow this thing. If they weren't, they wouldn't appease PSVR owners by making their new hardware compatible with the old headset, which, that blows my mind that they did that. You know what I mean? That says a lot that this headset's dated today. Imagine what it's going to be a year from now when this console comes out. And the fact that they're designing their new console to work with this old stuff, I think it just goes to show that VR is a big part of what Sony has planned. And plans can change, but I think the future's pretty bright for PSVR.
Yeah, and you make a good point. That software is really, or hardware is really old. I mean, it's getting very outdated. Do you think there's any possibility, because I know everybody's written it off, that maybe not right when they release, but shortly after they release a new headset as well? Like the headset is just so, like you said, it's not getting any newer. By the time November hits, it's now 4 years old, and it's now way back behind the Rift S, way back Index. All these headsets are coming out that are better. Maybe they do drop another headset. I know people say people can't afford it. Not everybody has to have everything at once, just because the second one comes out doesn't mean people aren't going to stop using the first one, right?
Yeah, so my thoughts on this are, I don't think there's any chance that we get PSVR 2 in 2021, unless it's like at the very end of the holiday season, a year after the console has launched. Now, what I do think is a lot more likely is that we get a PSVR Pro. And what the PSVR Pro is a discontinuation of the first gen PSVR, and they stopped making it the way they stopped making CV1, and we have an updated version with the better screens in it, and some basic upgrades, much like the Rift S over the CV1.
So I guess
think we could. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, no, I cut you off. No, that's exactly what I was talking about. I guess just rephrasing is not necessarily a new gen, but just a revamp, something that puts them back in the game, even though they're not out of the game. But it's very obvious that their headset now at this point is the worst of the bunch. Still amazing. It's just, it's starting to fall behind.
Yeah. I think that it's very possible that we see an updated version of the original PSVR, a headset that you do have to have a PS5 to use it, to drive the extra pixels, that it puts out, but plays the old games. So I don't think that they will develop. So this new headset comes out. I don't think there will be games that are exclusive to that headset specifically. There will be games that are exclusive to PlayStation 5 that you can play with the old headset or the new one. But I think if you play those games on the new headset, that you do have to have a PlayStation 5 because PS4 just can't drive it. Maybe the Pro, maybe it would work with like PS4 Pro, you know what I mean? But yeah, I absolutely think that's a real possibility, and I think it's needed. The only reason I think it's a possibility because, yeah, I think it's needed. I think that new VR users are buying into Quest now instead of PSVR. And I think if Sony wants to win those newbies over, which they may not even care about, but if they do, I think that it's time that this year they need to upgrade the visuals.
No, they'll get us too. They'll get all the enthusiasts, because I need to have the best PSVR headset that is out there. I'll upgrade,
I will too. Absolutely. I mean, I'm going to have 3 consoles anyway. Why not get a new headset?
Yeah.
Right?
Then you got an extra. Yeah, that's true. And it's just sitting around. You got an extra headset for the kids to play.
Yep. That's right. We'll just push it on down the line. I'll put my Pro in the living room with my PSVR headset. I'll take the one out of the living room, stick it in another bedroom, and then we'll have 3 players. Bye-bye.
Damn. Good.
Yes, sir. All right. So like I said, unsurprisingly, the software support has diminished over the last few months and will continue to do so going forward. But that said, there are some very good deals available right now on the PSN. There's a good sale going on right now. Tons of titles on sale. I did mark down a few of the titles that I think are very on a very good sale. Doom VFR, $9. Evasion, $8. Evasion aim controller compatible co-op. Beautiful, fun game. Immortal Legacy. I keep going on about Immortal Legacy. $10. As is Killing Floor Incursion, also $10. Paranormal Activity, $10. That's a $30 game, $10 right now. Res Infinite, $15. And Tetris Effect, a must own, $20, half off right now.
Yeah, that right there is huge, because how many people, when Tetris Effect came out, they bitched their minds out. $30, fuck that, man. If it was 20, well, let's put your mouth where your money, or money where your mouth is. Let's pick that up, because it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, highly recommend Tetris Effect. That's a great game. Persistence, one of the best VR games I've ever played. The Persistence, $15. Pick it up if you don't have it. And this one's the one that really got me, Roots. Transference, $7.50.
That's a good deal, right?
It's ridiculous, man. That's one of that outside of the new, Oculus games that come out late last year. Transference might be the highest production values I've ever seen in a VR game. I mean, it's just so beautiful from a visual and audio standpoint. Next level storytelling. You can absolutely tell that game was produced by a movie studio.
Yeah, it's less than a movie ticket.
Yeah, much less, and a much more compelling story than most movies that hit the theaters these days.
Absolutely.
All right. Despite the diminishing software support for PSVR, there is one rather bright spot coming up in the very near future, and that is Iron Man VR. We found out some more details on Iron Man VR just this past week, as the guys from Camouflage did an interview with the official PlayStation magazine. So what did we learn? We learned that in this game, to propel yourself upward, you're going to hold the move controllers straight down at your sides and then swivel them to change direction. Now that they have worked in algorithms to account for everybody holds the move controllers a little bit differently. They have taken that into consideration and corrected it in software. So you're not going to have to play the game the way the game wants you to play it. Rather, they're going to see how you play it and adapt the game around you to make it more comfortable. There will be a mix of firing locked-on missiles and then some more hands-on moves for combat, such as ground pounding and the rocket punch. They say this is a culmination of years of iterating on the model, materials, animations, special effects, and black magic engineering under the hood. Roots, the more I hear about this game, I feel like this could be one of those games like Stormlands, where it's just about how it feels. Because everybody who's played this thing, and the developers, everyone says that this game just feels so great to play.
Yeah, that's what I was saying the last show, is like, that's one of the things everybody walks away from it is saying how good it feels. And it kind of reminds me of Stormland a little bit, as far as what you were saying. When you're flying and you want to stop, you put your arms down and you'll hover, and you control just by the way you're moving your arms, you're directing yourself, and that's exactly why it feels so good. So I would imagine That is exactly what's going on here. And then, you know, you combine that with all the cool weapons and freedom of being Tony Stark. I think it's a winner.
Yeah, I think so. It's amazing how this game has turned around for me. When they first announced it, I thought this game was going to be little more than another superhero cash grab. And now it's one of my most anticipated releases of the year. I can't wait for this game. I can't think of 5 other games I'm more highly anticipated than Iron Man VR for me.
Yeah, it's funny because I think it's because of the time that we were in, you know, like we've now have enough good games underneath our belt that we've seen that we have a little bit more faith. And when this was first announced, everything that did come out that was something like this was exactly that. It was like, you know, Wolfenstein, where it was like you were excited and then it came out and you were like, oh, this is like not what we wanted it to be. Marvel Powers United. Oh my God, this is going to be amazing. And then it comes out and you're like, ugh, it's not what we want it to be. So we've had that happen so many times. But I think we're at a different place now where everything's catching up with each other, and there's a lot of tricks in these games that they've now done, whether it be movement or whatever. And I think this is going to be a really good game. So.
I think so too. And not only is it going to be, you know, this awesome feeling action game, but it's apparently very heavily story driven. The game is expected to tell a brand new original story about Tony Stark in the campaign. So it's not all about being Iron Man. There's a Malibu mansion and a garage, which serves as a hub where the player can tinker and upgrade the impulse armor, upgrade abilities, and select missions. Tony Stark has retired from making weapons and instead creates technology used to battle evil as Iron Man. After several years as a world-famous superhero, Tony is attacked by the mysterious Ghost, a hacker and anti-corporate activist who repurposes old Stark Industries weapons. In her efforts to topple his empire, Ghost attacks Stark's corporate locations around the world, leading to ever-escalating stakes and a final showdown. Ruuts, basically, this seems like it's going to be an Iron Man movie, but you get to play the role of Iron Man, and you get to do it. And it's not like you're going to be acting it out like in Vader Immortal. You're going to be fighting. You're going to be flying, and the shit's going to be going down all around you.
I'm just excited I can move while I'm hitting people, like unlike Immortal, Vader Immortal. But yeah, no, this like I said, it the more I see of it, the better it looks. So
yeah, I'm super pumped for this, and the only reason I haven't pre-ordered it yet is I'm waiting on my next round of Sony card points to hit my account. So next week sometime I should have enough cash in my account to pre-order this, but I might throw down a little extra because the base version's 40, but there is a digital exclusive, you know, a special edition for 50. I might go ahead and chuck down the extra $10 and get the good one.
are you gonna get the special backpack? Oh no, they don't have they don't have an Iron Man backpack. I want a backpack, damn it. $150
unicorn backpack.
Yeah, who doesn't want that?
But dude, it's got 3 postcards in it and a couple of pins.
Oh well, shit, dude, that's worth an extra $100 right there, right?
For sure. Anyway, February 28th, 2020. Probably going to be the game of the year on PSVR, at least. Seems so at this point, right?
Yeah, it sure seems like it.
I don't doubt that Sony will have at least 1 or 2 more surprises, though, coming down the road. So let's not count our chickens quite yet.
Yeah, we've got a lot of sequels, man. We still haven't seen an Astrobot. We haven't seen a lot of good games, man. There's got to be sequels coming out.
I think that stuff's coming with PS5. I absolutely do. I think I know for a fact that Sony Japan's been working on something. They've been working on something. I don't know what it is, but I'm looking forward to seeing what it is. And London Studios as well, working on something. And they were prominent with their launch stuff for the original PSVR. So
Japan Studios working on Everyday Golf 2. No, I don't think so.
Yeah, no way, no way. Unrelated, completely unrelated bit of news that I didn't put into the format here, but just so everyone knows, Fast Travel Games working on something new as well. Dropped some hints on Twitter today. Very, very excited about this. Mr. Juliuson is, but says he can't talk about it. So he may have landed something that's a big deal because he said he wanted to scream it to the world, but he can't right now. So keep an eye on Fast Travel Games. Something big coming from those guys this year.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. All right, PSVR. Also a handful of PSVR titles we've been waiting on from the get-go that never seemed to show up. Disaster Report 4 being one of those. Disaster Report 4 had already launched in Japan. This is a flat game. It was reported this week that it's coming to PC as well as PS4. Let's see here. In the upcoming months, did it say exactly when it was coming out? April 7th. Disaster Report 4 finally coming to North America and Europe on PS4 as well as PC. Now, people were excited about this for a long time because this game, 2 years ago when we first started talking about it, looked pretty cool. But as time has gone on, this game looks to be more and more dated. And then we come to find out that I'm not so sure that this whole game is VR compatible. I think it has a PSVR mode, and it's exclusive stages. They're VR exclusive stages, kind of like with Ace Combat did the exclusive PSVR mode. But based on the video that came out that showcased the PSVR stages, the experience is a largely passive one with node-based teleportation in combination with slow walking movement. No controllers, no interactions, just walking through. The environment is almost entirely deserted with no signs of life, and the PSVR player will find themselves navigating through collapsing buildings and such. The video in its entirety lasts about 43 minutes, so you can expect the entire PSVR exclusive content to run about that long. Roots, hype level from here to here to here to non-existent.
Yeah, it just for everything you just said, it just doesn't sound appealing. It's a little dated. Doesn't I had 43 minutes, and then even this, it just doesn't. I want, if I'm going to be in this, I want the full thing to be the entire thing. It's only 43 minutes. I mean, what do you, what mode could you have that's in, like, I'm only getting 5 minutes in VR? I mean, it doesn't make very much sense to me.
No, and then this is going to be one of those deals like Ace Combat as well, where if you want this thing, you're going to have to lay down 40 or 50 bucks just to get a little bit of VR content. And unlike Ace Combat, I don't think the content's all that compelling here. If it were the main game, I mean, the main game looks awesome. I mean, it looks like Godzilla Simulator, Gojira!
How long is the main game?
It's a full-length flat game,
Okay.
This is a big franchise in Japan, this Disaster Report. Basically, the concept of the main game is you're everything's all peachy, and then an earthquake hits, everything starts falling apart and blowing up like it would in real life, and you're basically trying to help survivors as you're trying to survive yourself.
Yeah, does it have it's multiplayer, right, or is it not?
I'm not sure.
Maybe I don't know why I'm thinking that it is. I could have sworn I read somewhere, but maybe not.
Yeah, I don't know. It might be. But anyway, that's coming. We've been waiting on this one for a long time. So April 7th, I think I said, this one comes to not only PS4 but PC as well. So.
So you looking forward to this one more, or Alex? You think?
It's close.
It's close.
So close. All right. So before we completely close out our CES 2020 talk, before we get away from that, I have to mention what HTC unveiled at this year's CES 2020. You know, HTC, they're perennial. They're always showing off their next year's technology at CES. And they did the same thing this year, as they didn't show up. So they did make a statement. HTC is skipping CES and is planning to share its, quote, new vision. They have a new vision, Roots, for its Vive VR business in 2020. We've got big things in store for 2020 and a new vision for Vive that we look forward to sharing with you. Roots, they're going to be at the Mobile World Congress, supposedly in Barcelona, February 24th through 27th. What do you think we're going to get out of these guys? What do you think this new vision is going to be?
They're going to realize the Cosmos was a complete failure. They're going to scrap it and start from scratch. No, that's what they should do. It's not what they're going to do. But I don't know. I can't imagine what their new vision is, because their only vision, or their only good vision, was Valve's vision. And ever since Valve left their partnership, they've just keep going downhill. And I don't see where the sun is. There's no sun at the end of this tunnel, Wes. It's all downhill, man.
Yeah, I think that the so-called new vision from HTC is going to be pretty much second verse, same as the first. They're going to basically come out and say, you know what, we're not concerned about the consumer marketplace in North America and Europe any longer. We are focusing only on enterprise solutions going forward, and beyond the HTC Vive Cosmos, we will not support any other future gaming endeavors other than in China, because of course China #1. Basically, they're going to take that Pico Neo approach, Rooch. I think's what they're saying, what they're going to say here, which, you know, is, let's be honest, it's what they're doing anyway. They threw out this Cosmos largely as a reactionary measure to get a headset out there with Oculus and Valve, but they rushed it to market. The software on it was garbage, and if they cared about it at all, they would fix it, but they're not fixing it. So I think that they're going to release their faceplate, which lets it run off the Valve tracking technology. And I think that's going to be that. They're going to let it be. It's going to be overpriced. Nobody's going to buy it. And they're going to slowly fade away into the sunset like Lee Van Cleef. What do you think? What do you think's going to come out of that?
Oh man, I think Lee Van Cleef faded a lot better than they're fading, but for sure. But yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. Like every decision they're making doesn't make sense. Like even the Vive Pro, not having a place anymore. The Cosmos is crap. Like, there's just not a place for them, man. And I've said it before, I don't know how they're staying afloat, man. They've lost money, big money, at like 17 quarters in a row or more. And I would imagine that a good chunk of that loss is in the United States. So they've already cut their phones. They're not doing phones anymore. They got to cut something else. And this would be the last thing they could cut, which would be, the North American market, which isn't doing well anyway. So I don't know. I would have liked to see them do better, but at the same time, that the way that they've ran their business, everything that everybody has loved about HTC, like Justin loves the Vive, original Vive. That's a Valve product. He loves Valve's product, and HTC fucking ran it into the ground. And I kind of excited to see them disappear, because they've just everything with the way that they run their businesses just bothers me. So.
Yeah, I think, the writing, well, let's be honest, the writing was on the wall the moment that Valve announced that it was working on Index, or even when the rumors started. Because if HTC wasn't who they are, you know, Valve didn't want to be a hardware manufacturer. They make games, brother. They don't need to sell headsets. But they saw that HTC was basically just all about that bottom line, making that money, right? Trying to price gouge everybody, and not about customer service in the least little bit. They were terrible partners, running it into the ground, like you said. So Valve said, you know what? Screw it. We'll do it ourselves. And now you're seeing the repercussions from that move in HTC. No showing CES. If these guys had anything, they'd be at CES. And the fact that they're not there tells me all that I need to know. They're done. They're done, brother.
Yeah, I would agree. I think they were done as soon as they released the Cosmos, and you and I were pointing out how shitty it was, and we got a lot of flack for it. And now that's what these numbers are showing, man. The Cosmos is not doing shit, man. It's got no business out there, right?
Yeah, look at it. So comfortably nestled right underneath the Oculus Rift DK2. Nice and comfy all the way down on the very bottom.
Yeah.
All right. So I just wanted to get one more jab into HTC before they finish dying their slow death.
Yeah, we're not going to be able to rip on them very much longer, man. They're going to be so obsolete that.
Yeah, we're going to have to. Pimax is going to have to step it up, man.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, talking about dying a slow death, this one rather unfortunate. Slightly Heroes, and basically everything, all the VR titles from Hat Rabbit Entertainment, which includes Mary Snowballs as well as Slightly Heroes, are going to be removed from all VR platforms by the end of January 2020. So if you have a copy of the game, Justin, you best enjoy them while they last. They are going away quickly. No explanation given as to why, but the easy guess is simply because the Stockholm, Sweden-based game development studio was acquired recently by the mobile gaming giant King Digital Entertainment back in October. So they got bought out. This mobile company, has no interest in supporting VR games, especially these types that have to have dedicated servers. So bye-bye Slightly Heroes. We hardly knew ye.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer too, because it makes me wonder for future games. Like, I don't know. I don't feel right about buying something and then having them digitally take it away when they feel like they want to do it. And I get it. You know, it's a dedicated server, and it's just like any multiplayer PvP game. If they just don't support it, your server disappears, the game disappears. But again, it doesn't make me feel better about buying these kind of games at all. It makes me think, fuck, man, what if it just disappears? Well, that'll never happen. Well, apparently, you know, this is Justin's baby that just got ripped out of his arms, dude. This is fucked up. I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't like it either, especially because by all accounts, these are some pretty good games, you know, for Gen 1 VR games. But it just goes to show, I mean, we've said it before, you know, arena-based multiplayer, head-to-head multiplayer in VR is just not ready for that yet. We need probably 20 times the user base what we have right now before we can sustain games like this. Luckily for me, I think I paid the whopping price of $0.00 for Slightly Heroes. So not a big loss on my part.
I think I might have paid 99 cents for one of my copies because it was free one time. It was 99 cents. This is a really good game. This is actually one of the better games of this type. It's really fun. And the fact that you can play it on phones, on PC, on, you know, in VR, I mean, it kind of bums me out a little bit, you know? So.
Yeah, because that was probably the coolest thing about it, was how cross-platform it was. I don't think there's another game in VR that's as cross-platform as this one is. You can play this game on anything.
Yeah, this is one of the best shooters you can play on the go, you know? So
yeah, you can play it on anything, brother. Cell phones, everything. Like, And it plays well, but like the cell phone players have an advantage. Those are the ones that dominate the leaderboards.
That's crazy, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it is crazy.
I am going to go back and play in this. Maybe I'll go and challenge Mamefan to a duel before we, just so I can die, because I know he'll rape my ass real quick.
Yeah, quickly.
He lived in this
order.
game for months, so.
Yeah, he got addicted to it, didn't he?
He did.
All right, one more story before we call it a show, and we're going to talk a little bit about Blade and Sorcery. Apparently, Blade and Sorcery was originally scheduled to have an update this month in late January, but they have pushed this major update back to April. Now, even though they have announced that they are pushing this update back, on the bright side, the developer is set to merge the update 8 with the update 9 features, which means an overall bigger update than originally planned. The reason why they're doing it is a lot of what they were putting in update 8 works with stuff that's in update 9. It really made more sense to put them in the same update, and in order to do that, it's going to take them a while to get it ready. So April, a gigantic update coming to Blade and Sorcery. Here's how the roadmap looks. There's going to be a new gravity spell, a new fire spell, a second version of the lightning spell. You're going to gain the ability to merge spells. They have to be the same class, obviously, but you can merge these spells together. You're going to get new armors and new NPCs, new character designs, a tutorial, an overhaul of the material collection or collision logic, rather, the physics, the melee physics, custom armor modding, custom spells modding, and new weapons. Basically, a complete overhaul of Blade and Sorcery Roots. And, a lot of people love this game. I took some crap for not including it in the PC VR games of 2019, but in my opinion, this wasn't a 2019 game. It's been in the space for quite some time, and even though it may be a different game today than it was back then, I could have bought it in 2018. You know what I mean?
This particular trailer says December 11th, 2018 as a release date. So it surely anybody that gave you shit should be apologizing, because this is not a 2019 game. And
Right.
This is one of those games for me that I wouldn't have even included it anyway, because it's a tech demo to me. It's cool. It's got really good physics, but man, dude, like, I ran around and I was bored in 5 minutes. I don't know what people are doing in there. And don't get me wrong, it's amazing for what it does. But for me, I need something. I need a goal. I don't want to just run around smashing people and stabbing them. That just, to me, it gets old after a while.
So yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, because I've never played this game, and a lot of what I'm seeing here looks freaking awesome. The melee looks great. The spell casting looks great. They're going to update all of it and put all these extra features in. All that sounds good, but from my understanding, this is a sandbox, right?
Yeah, and I'm just not into that, man. I don't want to run around and just stab and kill people. And it's super cool for a little bit of time, and then after that, it's just for me, it was just shallow. But for what it does well. And if that's your thing, there really are people that have hundreds of hours in this game, so they must be loving it. I don't know.
Yeah. For me, I would really like to see. I mean, because there's a lot of good work here. I mean, obviously, they've put a lot of good work into this world and this this game. Everything they've done here is top notch. They need to work it into a game. They need to make this into a larger thing with a story campaign, or at least if they're not going to do a story campaign, they should make some kind of a wave-based thing here, that like Gorn or something, so that there's an objective to accomplish.
Yeah, I just want some kind of guidance,
But that said, they're overhauling the whole thing, so who knows? Maybe if they keep improving upon it, this sandbox will all of a sudden become compelling one day, and draw me in. I just don't see it with today's VR games and the new standards that have been set. You know, if it's your thing, great. It's just not mine.
I just figure, you know, imagine you're playing an arcade game at the arcade and all you do is run around and smash stuff. At some point you want some goal for it, right? And that's how I am anyway.
Yeah, there should be something going on here. Not just everybody was kung fu fighting, you know what I mean?
That's right.
Anyway, those of you into Blade and Sorcery, it looks like you're getting a pretty big deal here in April, so be on the lookout for that. All right, Mr. Ruuts, viewers, it looks like that's another one in the books. Another episode down. So if you liked it, be sure to give us a thumbs up. What was that, sir?
Oh, that's absolutely.
Yeah, so if you liked it, give it a thumbs up. And if you would, please consider subscribing. Again, the only way that we're going to be able to give you the kind of content that we both want to give you is if we continue to grow. So subscribe. Be sure to click the notification bell to keep up with all of our content here on the channel. And if you want to join the conversation, click that Discord invite down in the description. Ruuts and I are both in there every day with our ever-growing community, talking all things VR. If it's a news story in VR, we're talking about it. So join the party.
Yep.
With that said, we'd like to thank you, friends, for watching. And for Ruuts, I'm Wes. We'll see you tomorrow, friends. Bye-bye.
Take it easy.